In the autumn of 1897, the town of Ravenwood, Pennsylvania, lay cloaked in the fog of its secluded hills. A hamlet of 600 souls, it was a place of farmers, mill workers, and devout Methodists, bound by church bells and the rhythm of rural life. Isolated by dense pine forests and a sluggish river, Ravenwood was a world apart, where news from beyond arrived late, if at all, and secrets festered in the silence. That year, something stirred. A mystery that would scar the town's history, buried by those who sought to erase it. Where are you all watching this video from? Let me know in the comments so I can see how far my video is reaching and who's watching it. Don't forget to drop your location below. Dr. Elias Hawthorne, a 34-year-old physician trained at the University of Pennsylvania, arrived in Ravenwood in 1895 to establish a small hospital, the Ravenwood Ward, funded by a Methodist endowment. The modest brick building housed 20 beds, a surgical room, and a dispensary. Hawthorne, admired for his calm demeanor and diagnostic skill, treated ailments from consumption to hysteria, his journals meticulously recording each case. Found decades later in a Pittsburgh archive, these journals were precise, unadorned, a testament to his rational mind. But by July 1897, a shift began. An entry dated July 12th noted, patient MR, male, 42, farmer, fever, muscle rigidity, and a strange luminescence in the eyes under dim light. Cause unknown, quinine and laudanum ineffective. The patient, Micah Reynolds, was a pillar of the Methodist congregation, known for his stoic piety. Within weeks, 3 more patients, 2 women and a child, showed similar symptoms: fever, stiffness, and glowing eyes, like foxfire in the dark. By August, the ward held 12 such cases. Townsfolk whispered of a contagion, but tests of the river and air found nothing. Reverend Samuel Tuttle preached of a divine test, urging prayer, yet the afflicted worsened. Hawthorne's journals grew tense. August 19th, patient E.L., female, 28, movements unnaturally fluid, as if joints lack resistance, speech repetitive, melodic, eyes reflect light even in daylight. No known disease matches. He sent sketches and blood samples to Philadelphia colleagues, who dismissed them as hysteria or marsh fever. By September, the ward housed 37 patients, their movements eerily synchronized, their silhouettes swaying in unison behind frosted windows. A mill worker claimed to see Micah Reynolds at midnight, his eyes like lanterns staring at the stars. Hawthorne, the rationalist, scoffed but wrote, September 24th, observed patients at 2 a.m., coordinated movements, silent, choreographed. I questioned my own eyes. In October, Dr. Clarence Voss, a state medical inspector, arrived unannounced. His report, later uncovered, called the ward hazardous to public morale, ordering it sealed. Hawthorne's journals grew cryptic. October 15th. They are changing, not just in body, but in essence. Their skin is too smooth, their voices too harmonious. Beyond medicine, beyond reason. The investigator, decades later, pieced together these fragments, journals, Voss's report, townsfolk's letters, scattered as if deliberately hidden. The patient's glowing eyes, unnatural coordination, and alien voices defied explanation. Were they ill or becoming something else? The investigator's notes trembled. What were the 237? Why was it buried? By November 1897, Ravenwood was a town under siege, not by force, but by silence. The ward, now holding 62 patients, was a forbidden zone, its doors chained, its windows boarded. Dr. Voss extended his stay, his office in the town hall, a hub of secrecy. Letters from residents, later found in county archives, described unmarked soldiers patrolling the roads, barring anyone from leaving. A grocer wrote, "Graycoats stop us. They say it's for safety, but they watch the ward always." The town's isolation became its cage. Hawthorne's secret journals, hidden to evade Voss, described a ward transformed. On November 3rd, he wrote, "They walk in patterns, circles within circles, angles that twist the eye. The air hums, charged. The ward's walls measure wrong, longer than they should be." His sketches showed spirals and impossible geometries labeled light bends here. The patient's skin was polished like river stones, their eyes glowing in daylight, tracking unseen points. Their speech, now a harmonic hum, vibrated the walls. A nurse's aide, who later vanished, whispered of patients singing at night, their tones causing headaches and fractured dreams. The community split between fear and denial. Reverend Tuttle's sermons grew strange, speaking of divine geometry and vessels for a higher purpose. His congregation shrank, but loyalists revered him. A farmer's letter from November 10th described a service where Tuttle prayed in an unknown tongue. Words like buzzing bees, lights danced above the altar. I felt heavy, watched. Voss's reports later obtained were evasive, citing a neurological condition, but privately urging federal oversight. Public knowledge would incite panic. The medical board's redacted reply mentioned military consultation. The investigator combing through these records felt dread mounting. Hawthorne's journals stopped briefly, then resumed with a chilling note on November 15th. "They see me now, not with eyes, but with something else." A folded note added, "I've seen the stars in their faces. They are not ours." The investigator found patterns. The alignment in Tuttle's sermons mirrored Voss's coded letters. A declassified military report from 1897 noted electromagnetic disturbances around the ward, like a heartbeat. The investigator wrote, "Disease or transformation. The 237th are not human anymore." A nurse's unsent letter, found in a descendant's attic, read, "The ward is no hospital. It's a cathedral of something else. Their eyes see me in the dark." The investigator's dreams began. Glowing eyes, a hum like a pulse. Their notes grew erratic. Hawthorne's spirals haunt me. What did he see? Ravenwood's silence was suffocating, the truth buried under layers of denial. The investigator felt watched, as if the act of uncovering the past had awakened something that never truly left. December 1897 brought a bitter cold to Ravenwood, as if the town were being sealed in ice. The ward, now reportedly housing 237 patients, was a fortress of secrets. Soldiers patrolled relentlessly, their gray coats blending into the fog. Townsfolk avoided the area, claiming the ground vibrated faintly, like a buried heartbeat. Official records grew scarce, as if Ravenwood had been erased. Yet fragments, Hawthorne's hidden journals, a military dispatch, whispered testimonies, revealed a horror beyond comprehension. Hawthorne's journals, found in a church cellar in 1932, resumed in early December, his writing unsteady. December 4th. The patients are vessels. They form spirals, drawing something down. Their hum fills my skull. I measured the ward. It's wrong, larger inside than out. On December 2nd, he found the patients in a perfect circle, their glowing eyes fixed upward, the air shimmering with impossible angles. His final entry, December 5th, read, "They know my name in my dreams." Reverend Tuttle's intercepted letter to a bishop, dated December 6th, called the ward a sacred threshold, the patients anointed, their forms aligned with the eternal. He begged it remain untouched. On December 10th, the ward vanished from record. A declassified military dispatch, codenamed Vesper, stated, "Site neutralized, subjects relocated, area sanitized." It noted structural anomalies, walls measuring inconsistently, a chamber impossibly large. The 237th were moved to an undisclosed location. Townsfolk, in oral histories from the 1920s, described waking to an empty ward on December 11th. No patients, no beds, only pristine walls. A child's diary mentioned a song without words and a pulsating glow rising into the sky. The investigator, piecing together these fragments, felt vertigo. Voss's sealed report found in a private collection described patients with crystalline structures in their tissue, their blood luminescent under microscopy. He concluded, "These are not human remains. Containment imperative." The report was stamped destroyed, yet survived. The investigator noted, "The 237 didn't die, they changed. Where are they?" Tuttle's sermons and Voss's letters both mentioned the alignment, as if describing the same force. A telegraph log recorded rhythmic static pulses from the ward's coordinates in December 1897. The investigators' dreams intensified. Spirals, glowing eyes, a hum forming words they couldn't grasp. Their notes grew desperate. The ward was a gateway. The 237s are gone, but not gone. I feel them watching. A 1901 Pittsburgh newspaper clipping dismissed Ravenwood's rumored illness as unfounded, its blandness suspicious. The investigator wrote, "The truth is buried, but it's alive. What did they become, and why do I hear the hum?" By 1898, Ravenwood was a husk. The ward's site was a barren lot, its soil refusing to bear life. Locals spoke of a hum in the air, lights in the pines, a sense of being watched. The town's population dwindled, its records faded. The investigator, now consumed, found an 1899 almanac with a handwritten note. January 3rd, "The ward is gone, but the hum remains. Lights in the hills, circling. They are not gone." A descendant's story claimed her grandfather, a deacon, burned his Bible, muttering of vessels and eyes that saw through the world. A 1898 photograph showed Ravenwood's empty street, a spiral smudge in the sky above the ward's site. Its back read, "They left, but are still here." The investigator's notes questioned, "Is this evidence or illusion?" A 1900 geological survey noted magnetic anomalies near Ravenwood, dismissed as errors. A 1902 medical journal mentioned luminescent tissue samples from an unnamed case with no follow-up. Hawthorne's fate was unclear. Rumors placed him in an asylum, raving of singing stars, but a 1900 shopkeeper's diary claimed he saw Hawthorne in the woods, his eyes glowing, unresponsive. Reverend Tuttle vanished in 1898, supposedly to Ohio, but no records confirmed this. A 1903 pamphlet, "The Vessels of Eternity," echoed his sermons, describing bodies remade in cosmic geometry. The investigator wrote, "Tuttle didn't leave. He joined them." A 1910 military memo referenced Vesper as resolved, but warned of residual phenomena requiring monitoring. A descendant's oral history spoke of a soldier guarding a bunker in the Alleghenies, where people who weren't people hummed, driving guards mad. The investigators' dreams grew vivid, spirals pulsing, eyes watching. Their notes read, "I feel watched, not by anyone, but by something. The 237th are alive, changing." A 1930s travelogue mentioned a cursed patch near Ravenwood, where travelers saw lights that moved with purpose. The investigator's final note was haunting. "Ravenwood is not history. It's waiting. If you've seen the spirals, would you look away or follow them?" The investigator vanished in the 1970s, their notes left in a university archive. In 1982, a graduate student stumbled upon them, treating Ravenwood as a historical curiosity. But as they dug deeper, dread took hold. A 1945 letter from a former Ravenwood nurse described a patient, J.S., with shimmering skin and machine-like movements, drawing spirals and muttering of the alignment. She wrote, "His eyes burned with knowing. Do not go to Ravenwood." The student noted its similarity to Hawthorne's journals. A 1950s FBI file mentioned coordinated human activity near the rumored Site 17 with glowing-eyed figures moving in unison. The file was abruptly closed. A 1960s oral history claimed Hawthorne was seen in 1925, leading figures tracing spirals in a field, their movements too perfect. The student's dreams began, spirals, glowing eyes, a hum. A 1970s paper on Ravenwood soil found crystalline structures, emitting pulses, its author vanishing. The student wrote, "The hum is in the ground. I heard it last night." Their research grew obsessive. Lights flickered in their apartment. Mirrors showed glowing eyes. Their final note read, "Ravenwood is a process. The 237s are in us, in the spirals. If you hear the hum, will you listen?" The graduate student's disappearance in 1983 left the Ravenwood mystery dormant, its files gathering dust in a university archive. But the case refused to stay buried. In 1995, a freelance journalist, drawn by a footnote in a medical history book, rediscovered the investigator's notes and the scattered records of Ravenwood. Initially skeptical, the journalist saw it as a potential exposé on government cover-ups. Yet, as they delved into the fragmented evidence, letters, journals, declassified memos, the story's weight began to press on them, a creeping sense that Ravenwood was not just a forgotten incident but a living enigma. A 1948 letter, found in a Pittsburgh estate sale, offered a fresh thread. Written by a Ravenwood blacksmith who had fled in 1898, it described a night in 1897 when he saw figures outside the ward, moving in a spiral pattern under moonlight. Their eyes glowed like coals, and they hummed, not like men, but like a storm trapped in glass. I ran, but the sound followed me. The journalist cross-referenced this with a 1952 police report from a nearby town, detailing a missing persons case. A farmer, formerly of Ravenwood, was last seen drawing spirals in a field, humming tunelessly. His family claimed he spoke of the alignment before vanishing. The journalist uncovered a 1965 geological survey buried in a federal archive that noted persistent electromagnetic anomalies near Ravenwood's old ward site. Instruments malfunctioned, detecting rhythmic pulses akin to biological signals. The survey was shelved, its lead researcher reassigned. A 1970 oral history from a Ravenwood descendant added another layer. Her father, a former soldier, had guarded a facility in the Allegheny Mountains, likely Site 17, where figures with glowing eyes were kept in isolation. He quit after hearing a hum that made his thoughts slip away. The journalist's notes grew uneasy. The 237 didn't vanish, they spread. Are they still out there? A 1980 medical report, found in a private collection, described a patient in Pittsburgh with luminescent ocular phenomena and unnatural motor coordination, symptoms eerily similar to Ravenwood's cases. The patient, a descendant of a Ravenwood family, vanished from the hospital before further tests. The journalist began to notice patterns, spirals appearing in unrelated documents, mentions of a hum in disparate accounts. Their dreams echoed the investigators, glowing eyes, spiraling shapes, a hum that felt like words. They wrote, "I hear it now, faint, at night. Is it real? Or am I falling into Ravenwood's pull?" The journalist visited Ravenwood's site, now a fenced-off lot overgrown with weeds. The air felt heavy, the ground faintly vibrating. A local, reluctant to speak, whispered of lights in the hills, seen as recently as 1990. The journalist's final note read, "Ravenwood isn't past. It's alive, in the hum, in the spirals. If you see them, will you look or turn away?" The journalist's work, published in a small online magazine in 1996, sparked brief interest before fading into obscurity. But Ravenwood's shadow persisted. In 2005, a documentary filmmaker, intrigued by the article, began tracing the case. Armed with the journalist's notes and access to digital archives, they uncovered new fragments that deepened the horror. A 1975 military memo, partially declassified, referenced Vesper subjects at Site 17, noting synchronized behavioral anomalies and electromagnetic emissions that disrupted nearby towns' radios. The memo ended, containment failing, relocation advised. No follow-up existed. A 1987 letter from a Ravenwood descendant found in a family archive described a family reunion where an elderly aunt, a child in 1897, spoke of the ward. They weren't sick. They were becoming. Their eyes saw things we couldn't, and their hum called to the sky. She claimed to have seen Reverend Tuttle in 1940, unchanged, leading a group in the hills, their movements like a dance no human could learn. The filmmaker interviewed locals who spoke of a hum in the ground near the old ward site, audible on quiet nights. One showed them a spiral carved into a tree, its edges unnaturally smooth. The filmmaker found a 1990s USGS report noting unexplained crystalline deposits in Ravenwood soil emitting faint pulses. The report was suppressed, its author unreachable. A 2000 medical conference abstract, withdrawn before publication, described a Ravenwood syndrome, with symptoms matching the 1897 patient's: glowing eyes, synchronized movements, a harmonic hum. The filmmaker's dreams began to mirror their predecessors: spirals, eyes, a hum that felt alive. They wrote, "I filmed the site last night. The footage shows lights moving in circles. They weren't there when I shot it." The filmmaker's obsession grew. They noticed flickers in their hotel room's lights, a hum in their ears during sleep. A local historian shared a 1995 sighting. Figures in the hills, their eyes glowing, moving in unison. The filmmaker's notes read, "The 237 are still here, or their legacy is. The hum is in me now. Am I imagining it, or am I part of it?" Their documentary, unfinished, was shelved after they stopped responding to emails in 2006. In 2015, a data analyst researching historical anomalies stumbled upon the filmmaker's abandoned website, which linked to Ravenwood's records. The analyst, drawn by the case's strangeness, began compiling data, letters, reports, oral histories, into a database. A 2008 blog post by a hiker described seeing glowing figures in the Alleghenies, moving in a spiral, their hum audible from a distance. The post was deleted days later, but the analyst saved a screenshot. A 2010 military email, leaked online, mentioned Site 17 anomalies persisting, with subjects showing non-human neural patterns. The email was scrubbed from the web within hours. A 2012 soil analysis from Ravenwood, conducted by an independent lab, found crystalline structures that pulsed rhythmically, defying known geology. The lab's funding was cut, its data sealed. The analyst interviewed a Ravenwood local who claimed their grandfather, a 1897 ward orderly, had drawn spirals until his death in 1960, muttering about the alignment. The analyst's dreams began: spirals, glowing eyes, a hum that formed whispers. They wrote, "The data points to something ongoing. The 237s didn't end. They evolved." The analyst noticed physical changes. Their hands traced spirals absent-mindedly. Their eyes glowed faintly in mirrors. Their final entry read, "Ravenwood is a signal, not a place. The hum is everywhere. If you hear it, what will you do?" By 2020, Ravenwood's story had become an internet legend, whispered on forums and podcasts. A cybersecurity researcher, intrigued by the analyst's database, accessed it via a dark web archive. A 2017 satellite image, briefly available online, showed a spiral pattern in the Allegheny forest, near Site 17's rumored location. The image was removed, labeled a glitch. A 2018 medical case in Pittsburgh described a patient with luminescent eyes and synchronized motor anomalies, a Ravenwood descendant who vanished from care. The researcher found a 2019 audio recording uploaded anonymously of a hum near Ravenwood's site. Rhythmic, harmonic, like a living pulse. Listeners reported migraines and visions of spirals. The researchers' dreams grew vivid, figures with glowing eyes moving in circles calling their name. They wrote, "The 237 are not gone. They're in the hum, in the spirals, watching. I feel them in my bones." In 2025, Ravenwood, Pennsylvania, remains a whisper in the annals of history, a town erased from maps but not from memory. The site of the Ravenwood Ward, now a restricted zone encircled by a rusted chain-link fence, is shunned by locals who speak of a persistent hum in the air, a vibration that seeps into the bones. The 237 patients, their fate unknown, linger in fragmented records and whispered tales, their transformation, biological, spiritual, or something incomprehensible, defying explanation. The cybersecurity researcher, who vanished in 2020 after accessing the analyst's database, left behind encrypted files that hint at a truth too vast to contain. Their final log, cracked in 2023, read, "The hum is not sound, it's a call. The 237s are not gone. They are everywhere, in the spirals, in the eyes that watch from the dark." A 2023 environmental report, briefly leaked before being retracted, analyzed soil from the ward site. It described crystalline structures that pulsed rhythmically, emitting electromagnetic signals that disrupted nearby devices. The report noted biological signatures within the crystals, as if the soil itself retained traces of the 237. The lead scientist, unreachable after the leak, had scribbled in the margins, "The ground is alive. It remembers them." Locals reported strange phenomena, lights spiraling in the hills, shadows moving in unison, and a hum that woke them at night, their dreams filled with glowing eyes and impossible angles. A 2024 podcast, hosted by an amateur historian, interviewed a Ravenwood descendant who claimed their great-grandfather, a ward orderly in 1897, had kept a hidden journal. The journal, recently found in a family attic, described the patient's final days. They stood in a circle, their bodies shimmering, their eyes like stars. The ward's walls bent inward, as if breathing. They hummed, and the stars answered. The descendant refused to share the journal, fearing it was cursed. The podcast was removed from streaming platforms within days, the host citing personal reasons. The researchers' encrypted files included a 2022 satellite image, briefly posted online, showing a spiral pattern in the Allegheny forest near the rumored Site 17. The image, labeled a technical error, vanished from public access. A whistleblower's email, intercepted in 2023, claimed Site 17 was still active, housing entities that exhibited synchronized neural activity and luminescent ocular phenomena. Guards reported migraines and visions of spirals, some deserting their posts. The email ended, "They are not contained, they are expanding." The truth of Ravenwood remains a wound, unhealed and festering. The 237, dead, transformed, or something worse, persist in the hum that locals hear, in the spirals that appear in dreams, in the eyes that watch from shadows. The question echoes across time. Have you heard the hum, seen the spirals? Would you follow them, knowing what they might mean, or would you flee, praying they don't follow you?